Three, two, one.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone-stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Grok Talk.
All right, welcome back. I'm Steve McDonald here with Skip Rogers, Mike Murphy. You like that? Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers. Max Abramson stuck around from his segment when we talked about some veto override day bills. Thanks again to Shona Holmes. And now, moving forward, we have our next guest, special treat. Haven't had him on in a while, Rich Girard.
Well, thank you.
Welcome to the program, sir.
And I thought I was hardcore introducing myself as a charter member of evilconservative.com.
Yes, right. That's you. We're them. We're those right-wing guys, you know. That's us.
Well, I do have Kimberly Morin on every Monday morning.
That helps,
I think that makes
yes.
up for my shortcomings.
She writes for us as well, yeah. So you're running for office. Now, well, first of all, Girard at Large, great show.
Thank you.
Wish I had more time to listen to it. I get 15-minute window on my way to work. You know, that's pretty much it. So I never call in, even if I want to, because I'm going to be getting out of the car, and it's just no point. But
the joys of being in a commuter hour.
Yes, absolutely. So you're running for office in Manchester. I know why, but let's talk about that.
Well, first off, what is the actual official title? Because we had a little bit of a tussle in the beginning of the show. I said school board. You were saying something
Board of
else.
School Committee, Manchester Board of School Committee.
Yes,
something.
well, the technical name of the Manchester School Board is the Board of School Committee. Just like the governing body in Manchester is the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and I am running for an at-large seat on the Board of School Committee, but we'll call it the school board.
At large. It
At
fits.
Yes. Well, you know.
Just add that to the end of your show. Girard at Large. Never mind.
Yeah, no, well, I talk an awful lot about education and education issues and the stupid things that school boards do around our listening area on a regular basis, and I finally...
Legion is the word I would use for the epic stupidity.
Good God. But, we've been able to bring, through the radio show, a lot of attention to things that are happening at various school boards and at the state. But there's only so far you can go from behind the microphone, especially if you have administrations like you have in Manchester, that are intent on keeping from the public that which is theirs to know, keeping from the school board that which is its to know, and doing it with a certain irreverence for the law that we as citizens in this state have to spend the money and the time to go to court to enforce. I'd had enough, and I said, if I'm really going to start to drill down on some of those areas that need to be fixed and get some changes made, I'm going to have to go back once more unto the breach.
And since you're probably already going to the meetings, you might as well just be on the
board.
board.
I said that to my wife. I said, I'll only go to the committee meetings that I'm assigned to, and I'll only go to the board meetings instead of every meeting that I go to now. So I might actually get more out of this time. More free time out of this.
Might be a more comfortable seat.
Well, it's a seat. I held its cousin. I was the first elected alderman at large in the city of Manchester. So. I kind of know the territory and I know the terrain.
Well, you certainly bring up a really big problem that we have certainly talked about. I have seen it firsthand, both as a taxpayer and on my budget committee. Mm-hmm. We have Jorge Mesa Tejada, who comes on often.
Love Jorge.
Oh, absolutely. What a font of knowledge, and he's so free to mentor people.
Well,
but
when he was banned from the Hampstead School Board, we had some fun with him on the radio show, and, what do you expect from an operation that's run by Superintendent Earl F. Metzler II?
Earl of Metzler.
Oh, yes, the Earl of Metzler.
We love him.
But we touched upon it earlier today on the override votes that Max brought us. But it's a case where the school department and the teachers themselves believe they are an entity unto themselves, that they are far above us on the plane of living, and to put it bluntly, that their crap don't stink.
Well,
and what you described, that they feel perfectly capable and able to not tell stuff to anybody else because they own the children.
Right. Well, they certainly act as if they are entitled to conduct themselves as they see fit. And one of the big issues that I have with every school board that I cover. I mean, there are very few Donna Greens out there of the Timberlane
That's true.
Regionals. There are very few John Liscarses out there. Art Beaudry is decent on the Manchester School Board, but he's outmanned and outgunned. Deb Langton on the Manchester School Board. There are very few people who will look at the edubabble, or I should say, look at the people who just spewed the edubabble and talked in a language that nobody understands, and sit there and say, for those of us who don't know what you just said, let's try to bring it down to where we can understand it. And I'm firmly convinced that the bigger government gets, the more complicated it gets because of state and federal mandates and all of the stuff that we have to deal with now, the more they speak in a language that is designed to intimidate the elected officials into compliance with what they want, as opposed to making themselves look stupid by asking the questions that need to be asked to understand and discover the proof of what they're saying. And it's sometimes not even that hard. I mean, one of the biggest things I think we accomplished through the radio show was when Deb Livingston, the Manchester superintendent, came to the Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting 2 years ago last month, and said, oh, if we don't adopt Common Core, the state says we're going to lose our state adequacy grant and federal funding. Now, okay, in Manchester, when you take federal and state funds, you're looking at over $75 million. And not one person there, not one, zero, said, what's your evidence of that? Who told you that? Where did that come from? It took me filing a right to know request from the radio show to say, please provide any and all communiques between you and the State Board of Education, any laws, any regs, anything that would substantiate your claim that the state will withhold not just federal funds, but state adequacy grant money. And after that all came down, they were forced to retract the statement, and Virginia Berry, who was the originator of the threat, the Commissioner of Education, had to stand down from those positions. But I take a look at this and say it's an accountability problem. There's a transparency problem, and there's an unwillingness for people. It drives me crazy when you see school board members say, "Oh yes, they're our educational leader. We should give them what they say they need to do the job." Well, if that's your position, why are you sitting on the school board?
Well, I think that goes to the point of the ordinary person, if they can get themselves elected, because let's face it, you're going to be faced with a big contingent of schoolies who are going to oppose you. Trust me, I had the same thing in my area when I said no new red shiny fire engine, and the fire engineers and firemen all rose up and joined with the schoolies because I've been hard on them and got me out of office. I haven't been able to get back in since.
Right.
They hate me.
Right.
At least I have a good reason. But anyways, there is this this awe of professionals that seems to run rife among elected officials, that if somebody that we're paying says something, we have to accept it prima facie as being truthful. And it just drives me, you're right, it drives me crazy because I'm a simple person. Yes, my critics call me a simpleton. I'm okay with that. But if you can't answer the simple question,
right,
and then you get mad at me because I've asked the question,
right, as I've said oftentimes from my perch behind the microphone, I'm not the bad guy because I asked the question. And the people who are making me a bad guy because I asked the question are the ones who don't want to answer the question. So you have to ask yourself, why don't they want to answer the question?
Because you hate children.
I do. Especially the 5 that I have. They drive me absolutely crazy.
I was going to say, it must have been going back to school and whatever you guys are doing, everybody, the school thing, the experience.
I have a sophomore, a freshman, an 8th grader, a 4-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Because, I have 2 in college now, and I have 1 into sophomore in high school. And even just, like we were talking a couple weeks ago, that these national groups always schedule these major events like the Jackson Hole Summit, and AFP had one. It's the week or within the 2 weeks where there's no way in hell I can leave the house because my wife's a teacher. She's going back to work.
Yeah.
Why do you do this to me? This is the worst time of the year for me. And at the end of the year, same thing. They always do that. And I'm like, don't do that. Schedule them some other time because we're busy.
Yeah. And I think Steve's got a great point because they do a lot of this stuff knowing that people are busy. To me, government should be 4, 5, 6 levels down deep. and they use that against us.
Oh, sure.
And when stuff goes on, that they say, "Well, come and see us." I'm working, you nitwit.
Yeah, we'll make that behavioral survey that we're going to do our best to not tell you about, available at the guidance office during regular school hours, so that if you want to come in and see it, we won't let you take a copy. You can take a look.
Well, you have to run it on your own laptop, and by the way, we have no Wi-Fi or Ethernet cables to let you use it with.
Yeah.
Which brings up another thing. What is your stance about all this automated testing that you would literally have to take in the computer lab, and that never is allowable for a parent to watch and proctor?
Absolutely opposed. Absolutely opposed. Absolutely opposed. And Mayor Gatzis in Manchester has been among the leaders in the state to say we don't want to do this. And I will add my voice to that. I have been a very loud opponent of the Smarter Balanced Assessment, which is here in the state of New Hampshire. I understand state law requires a standardized test, but it doesn't have to be the Smarter Balanced test. These assessments largely are non-academic. And I really think that what we need to do is, look, this ain't rocket. By the way, let me throw something out at you. Could you please explain to me what a 21st century skill is?
That you can text while walking up the street without running into anybody, anything,
using your
or falling
EBT
into a hole.
card to buy cigarettes and alcohol and not getting caught. Sorry, I turned your mic off.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Knowing what the scientific method is. A lot of young people come out of high school not knowing what the scientific method is. They've heard of it, but they don't know how to follow it.
Now, there's a reasonable answer. Aren't you unhappy that you asked the two of us?
No, I'm perfectly happy that I asked it, because here's the thing, and it's going to get to your question on testing. We have seen a complete distortion of what education needs to be, because we're in pursuit of college and career readiness in the 21st century. We have to have 21st century skills. God rest his soul, former Manchester Superintendent Tom Brennan, who used to anchor the education segment that I do each week on the show, said, employers don't want 21st century skills. They want 17th century skills. They want 18th century skills. You know what those are? He said to me. I said, what? He
Functional.
Said, they can read. They can write. They can do arithmetic. They can develop the basic skills and building blocks that will allow them to go into any work environment and learn what they need to learn so they can be productive. So now we take a look at these standardized tests, and what are they testing? In many cases, it's not the children's ability to read, to write, to do math, or any of the thing to understand, certainly not to understand history and civics, which I think ought to be added to the reading, writing, arithmetic, and that.
It's basically a comprehension exercise in Newspeak.
Well, it's even worse than that if you take a look at some of the questions that they're being asked, because what they're really doing is they're developing psychological profiles on the kids.
All right, we're going to take a really short break. Stay tuned. We're going to come back and have some more fun.
Rock.